camped somewhere in the Mendocino National Forest in Northern California. I'm exploring the area by myself for a couple of days, and we'll be meeting up with some new friends for a third day of adventure. Full episodes from this trip will be coming very soon. In the meantime, here's a brief follow-up responding to some of the most frequent comments that came up on my recent build videos.
You might have seen my video a few weeks ago where I talked about installing insulation in the canopy. And I do think that is making a difference. I do think it actually accumulated less heat in here yesterday while I was driving around all day in the very intense sun. It got warm back here for sure. I mean, it was too warm to be in here, spend any time in here, but it was definitely less intensely hot. So it did make a difference. And ultimately, because it got cold last night, it was actually nice that there was some heat. I kept the canopy closed up so I could preserve some of that heat. The insulation video was really supposed to be about the insulation, how I was installing insulation. But I had about 800 people comment that I would stay warmer if I covered my windows. Well, I've been covering my windows from the very beginning. That was the first thing I did in the canopy.
In this video from almost a year ago, I shared my earliest sort of rough draft of my camping build, including some basic curtains I made. I'm now actually on version 2 of my window coverings.
In the front and back windows, I have these pieces of chloroplast which I've cut to fit directly into these frames. And chloroplast is, it's like this corrugated plastic material to make signs out of. And so it's got these air pockets in there, and I find it to be an excellent insulator. You put your hand up against it and, while the metal framework will be cold, this will just not be cold at all. I did deliberately leave this open so I'd have a way to peek out. Because these side windows don't have that nice rigid frame around them in the same way, what I've got here is just some curtains. These are basically just panels of fabric that have been hemmed around the edges by my friend Drea. Thank you, Drea. And I just hold these up with magnets. These are the same little magnets that I use to run the wires up to the roof of my Forester. I have a video about those. And because magnets don't stick to aluminum, I have some little self-adhesive metal plates that are designed for phones, I guess. The nice thing about this approach with the curtains is it fits very, very snug up against there. There's not, that airspace that might come from curtains that are hanging. So these are also very effective in providing an insulating layer. You get your hand up behind the curtain, you can feel all the cold air that's been trapped back there. And when these magnets aren't in use, I just store them up against the front edge of the truck bed here where they stick. The other thing that came up a lot in the comments on that video was the fact that I had no floor covering down. Now that was something that I had sort of a long-term plan for, didn't have time to get around to it before I needed to start getting back out on some adventures like this. What I did do is really quickly, I just got a piece of indoor-outdoor carpet from my home improvement store. It only cost a few bucks to get a piece that would fit just this little space right here. And to deal with the ridges of the bottom of the truck bed, I just basically laid these 1x2s that I had. This is just some scrap. This is actually what I used to mock up the canopy before I ordered it to make sure I was going to like the space. I have a bunch of this material. It fits right into there. So, it's not perfect, but it gives a nice spot to sort of bridge. And it's, it's much more comfortable than it was walking on the metal. And it definitely adds sort of a, it knocks down some of the chill from the floor. And this is actually one of the rear floor mats from the Subaru, and I put that there so I can try to remember to just keep my boots here and not walk into the rest of the canopy. I obviously haven't been perfect about that, but trying to sort of keep it clean in there. You may also notice that my Mr. Heater Buddy is back in action here. The issue was the thermocouple, and actually my local propane shop replaced that for me. I'm really happy to have that back, and I had been using that electric heater for all of the winter, and I forgot how really crazy intense the heat from this thing is. This is so much more effective than that electric heater. Obviously it creates moisture in the air, and so there's, you know, more likelihood of condensation. It wasn't that cold last night, and so I didn't accumulate any significant amount of condensation in here. I didn't have to run it for very long at all. Really just a very, very short blast heats the space up very, very quickly. So, and I've got that actually mounted onto the cabinet there, so it's not bouncing around back here. I've got a dedicated cover to keep the dust from getting on it as well. Now my electrical setup is not done. In fact, it's not even started. Obviously, I'm still based off the Jackeries. I rely on them heavily to keep all my devices charged up. The Jackery 500 is sitting up here right now. It's running the fridge. When I'm driving, I unplug this and I've plugged it into a 12-volt outlet that's just tied directly to the battery. And the Jackery 1500 back here is doing whatever else I need, running my electric blanket, keeping my phone, my iPad, my camera batteries charged, my drone batteries, which have to run off of AC power. All that stuff runs easily off my 1500. When either of these start getting low, I can easily recharge them off of that 12-volt outlet while I'm driving during the day.
In my installation and review video of the Alldogs Offroad suspension lift, I didn't think to mention that yes, I did have the truck aligned at my usual alignment shop here in Eugene. It wasn't really a relevant detail to the lift itself, and I think it's pretty common knowledge that an alignment is always needed after a lift. So yeah, I didn't bring that up, but don't worry, the truck was aligned after I got back home. In a vast Northern California national forest that has been ravaged by multiple wildfires over the past several years, the extensive burned areas reveal previously unseen vistas. But the thousands upon thousands of dead trees pose a new type of challenge to experiencing those views. Join me for a multi-day excursion exploring the immense Mendocino National Forest, including solo exploring and camping, as well as trekking over mountains and through rivers with some new friends, and things going wrong unlike anything I've ever experienced.